This is the big one at the Moomba Supercross at Calder Park, Keilor, 25 kilometres northwest of Melbourne. It's the A and B grade riders in the 250cc final. They are racing for $40,000, $15,000 for first prize, and the top riders in Australia and riders from 3 other countries as well are in there. And it's very, very hard indeed to pick the result out of it. Have a look at the class of the field. 1, Glen Bell. 4, Stephen Andrew. And 2, Craig Dack. Beside them, K is Darryl King from New Zealand. He's gone well earlier tonight. Eddie Warren backing up from a hectic 125cc race just earlier. Shane King from New Zealand, another hard runner who's had good results earlier. Stephen MAGUIRE from Victoria. And 6 from New South Wales, Ben PERESE. And H, Jeff Hicks from the United States. And 9, Troy Dorron, who just fell lightly off his bike in the 125cc race. And 12, as they start up now, James Deakin. And 33 is Jason Marshall. And Len Williamson there, overlooking them all. Oliver Perrin from France on the Kawasaki. He went very well earlier tonight, but hasn't been much noticed other than in one race. 15 was Dale Britton. 22 is Lee Hogan. 13 is Mark KIRKMAN for Suzuki Australia. And 19 is Phil Robinson. 16 is Stan Bergen. 11 is Tony Fenton from Quick Snacks Brisbane Yamaha. 7 is Lyndon Heffernan. Again, just having finished the 125cc race, Glenn Poole's on 14 for Action Suzuki. A packed field, an enormous prize purse, and all in readiness on a track that's now pretty dry, pretty hard, a little bit slidey. 15,000 for first place, 40 grand for the field. Moomba Supercross at Keilor at Calder Park, and they go away. Grimly determined as they've never been before. Funneling down in under the bridge, it's 20 laps. So a good starting position, vital for Andrew. The first man out, but already overtaken by the flying Glen Bell for Honda. And then by DACK. So we've had 3 leaders already. And they have leapt away from the field, and there's mayhem further back. And it's big dollar mayhem too.
Well, it was a big move by Dacky, just blocking Bell out of the way there. Exactly what he had to do. Stephen Andrew coming up on the inside on Glen Bell.
So, DACK coming round now to complete lap 1, and the excitement and the nerves over, settling in now and going for hard, relentless riding, but no error riding. DACK. And Bell.
Not a great deal in it. Stephen Andrews dropping back a little bit now.
And that lap, some 2 odd seconds faster than they managed in any race earlier tonight. 47.5 seconds. They really are serious. This is big money, producing big performances, and DACK getting away from Bell. Bell has beaten him 6 out of 7 times this season in early season races and in Supercross. The man on form. This man, dispirited, allegedly. Have a look at the dispirited rider on number 2. Lap 2 and he leads across the finishing line again. And if that's dispirited, it's pretty good.
Glen Bell just rolled all 3 of the last jumps over the finish line there. Whether he's got a problem or not, I'm not sure. But this is the DACK we're used to seeing, the old DACK attack back out in front, doing it with ease, just looking so smooth. Bell looks to be in a bit of trouble there. Stephen Andrew going around the outside of him.
Running out wide up towards Bunting there. We look down, you see them go under the bridge and over the bridge. They punch up the hill as at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. But Craig Dack, the man at the moment. They can't pin back, that's doing it better than anyone. 25 years old, 20th in the world motocross championships last year from a small number of appearances. And looking very impressive. And Glen Bell in second place on 1. The man on form and glorious over there. Being threatened by Stephen Andrew on 4. Honda, Yamaha, the first 3 placings.
Well, it doesn't seem to be anything wrong with Glen Bell. He just a bit hesitant on a few spots of the track, letting Craig Dack do his own thing out in front.
And to the glory of local riders, we have Dean Burt immediately behind those four. He's on 5. On 10, Stephen MAGUIRE. The first of the visitors from overseas, from 4 different countries, is Eddie Warren in 6th place. Then we have 22, Lee Hogan. And in fact, we have to go down a long way. Oh, sorry. In 4th place, S, is Shane King from New Zealand. Taking him to be 5, Dean Burt. So Shane King. And again, Dack building up this lead. Really, how much has he been foxing? Just psyching himself and preparing the machine as his arch rival for this and for all supercross honours and for motocross honours. Glen Bell is back to 4th place on bike 1. So Stephen Andrew on 4 coming through, and also
Glen Bell is in.
Shane King.
Glen Bell's moved back to 3rd. Andrew's moved into 2nd. Now this is an unbelievable lead Dackie's got just off the start. All he has to do is just think properly from now on and just can't afford to make any more mistakes.
And this is the most money they've ever raced for. It really is, in motocross standards, big money. I mean, to give you an idea, to win a touring car championship round, Dick Johnson last year got $1,250 using a $250,000 motor car in a team with spares and so on worth more than $1 million and an annual running budget of several million. These bikes cost $6,000 or $7,000 and they're going to recoup the cost of the bike, which they don't own anyway, in 20 minutes, one of them. There's S. Shane King ahead of Glen Bell.
Well, I don't know what Glen Bell's problem is, but it's certainly not like him to be dropping back to the field. Usually it's him moving towards the front.
He'll be a very disappointed man. 15,000 for first, drop 6 for 2nd place, down to 9. Drop another 4, down to 3rd place, 5,000. 3.5 for 4th place, 2,000 for 5th, and 1,000 for 6th. Just a little bit less than Dick Johnson gets for 50 minutes of racing in his Ford Sierra Cosworth Turbo, if he wins the race. So, it's good money.
As you can see, Dack's already going through the field. He's lapping with number 5 there, Dean Burt. Followed by Stephen Andrew, Shane King and Glen Bell.
Shane King and Bell mixing it. So, really disappointing here for Glen Bell, but not so for this man on number 2, whose sponsor said, yes, you can forget our sponsorship name for tonight to race in Victoria. Please wear some bright red and white. And with 7 completed now by just one man, by Craig Dack. Then we see Shane King.
Shane King just dropping a little short on the double jump there, casing out.
Coming up the hill again on lap 8. He's got it working nicely underneath him, just standing up off it. In the distance, you saw 16 there, Stan Burgin. Outrider Midnight Racing. Well, he's a couple of hours before midnight. And he's back in 18. Mr. Burgin on 16. So that says our lap scorer knows what's going on. Thank you, Nigel Greenway. And on 11, Tony Fenton there. You just saw a flash as they saw a flash of this man, Craig Dack, blasting by.
Well, he's got printed on the back of the helmet a big Dack's back, so I guess he's putting that right into action.
Yes, and he's an unusually big rider for any sort of a motorcycle rider. He's 1.82 metres tall. Solid sort of a lad.
He certainly is. He's probably one of the heaviest guys in motocross racing.
But at the moment, he's the most successful of them. For Australia's richest supercross. Moomba at Calder. And that's 8 laps completed by Mr. DACK, 25 years old, from New South Wales, and an Australian representative in the Motocross to Nations for the last 4 years, 86, 87, 88 and 89. And with Jeff Lease last year as he works his way past Troy Dorron, K&J Thomas Yamaha entry from Victoria. And in that National Motocross Championship, country against country, in which Australia in 89 finished 7th and in 88 distinguished themselves by finishing 4th, DACK has been a vital part of that on each occasion.
Well, Glen Bell is certainly going to have problems. He's just dropped back to 5th position, so very unlike him.
Tony Fenton there on 11 is down, way down, 20th place.
Stephen Andrews still sitting in 2nd position.
And the next man being lined up by Craig DACK is Stan Bergen on 16. We saw him a little bit earlier. And 9 laps now completed. Sorry, 10 laps. 10 laps is a 20-lapper, half distance. And will the violence never stop? Surely is the question of the riders. As their arms get weary, as their necks ache, as the helmets feel heavy, trying to tear their head off their shoulders. Number 7 is Lyndon Heffernan, outrider Yamaha. No one, though, the equal in this 24-bike field of the rider on number 2, Craig Stephen DACK. Goes wide there and easing back a little, and Heffernan came underneath him temporarily.
Yeah, as you can see, Dackie's just taking a bit cautious while he's round the lap riders, which is good. He's got enough of a lead to be thinking about exactly what he's doing without rushing through it.
Mark KIRKMAN being lined up by DACK next on 13. Very cautious around some of those, and well, $15,000 caution. And you'd feel awfully silly, wouldn't you, if you slipped off with this sort of a lead and you're fighting to get the rotten thing upright and get back into the action, and suddenly the realization dawned on you that you couldn't make it, and you could see 15 grand. 15 grand, a lovely pay. So at the moment, it is DACK on 2. First place. Second place, Stephen Andrew on 4. S is in third place, Shane King from Yamaha, New Zealand. Fourth, behind him, is number 10. That is MAGUIRE. And fifth place is 1, Glen Bell. Sixth place is K, Daryl King from New Zealand. There's third.
Good performance by King to be still sitting in 3rd position. Funnily enough, we haven't even heard a mention of Eddie Warren in this final.
Just a little way back, actually, to Eddie. 7th place on E. So the New Zealanders have come over, some of the country's hottest riders, and done very well indeed. But when it finally got down to the big money into the finals, it was the Australians, and specifically Craig DACK on number 2. The DACK attack is back. It is flying, and this is the sort of fillip that his mental preparation really needs, because Ray Vandenberg, when he goes down in a big way, doesn't he?
Exactly. He needs this confidence. While he's in front, he's just such a strong rider. Picture of Eddie
in 7th place.
But as I was about to mention, one time in Adelaide there, he led the whole race till 2 laps from the end. He had a bit of pressure from another American. On the last corner, he looped out and lost the whole lot. So it's never over till the finish.
12, lined up by DACK, James DEAKIN, Honda Australia from Queensland. And DEAKIN and MAGUIRE and Glen Bell and some of the overseas visitors and some of the other Australians are all top, hard, very fit runners in supercross and motocross. But they're being demolished tonight by this man. and he will be absolutely delighted. He's completed 14 laps. He's on his 15th in a 20-lap $40,000 race with 15 grand for the position that he's occupying at the moment. And remember, on lap 1, if not much has happened since then up at the front of the race, because of the way he's been riding, because on lap 1, 3 people at varying times held the lead until finally the rider on 2 came through, asserted himself, and just ran away from the rest of them and said, come on if you're good enough.
Certainly, Will. He's riding so solid. Just each back marker he comes up to, he's thinking about it. There's Stephen Andrews sitting in second position, still doing a fine job. I don't think there's any challenge to him from third.
Heffernan being lapped by him.
Quite amazing. Some of the riders they're lapping here, you know, like our top national motocross riders. So these guys out in front of Heffernan, certainly they've got the pace going. There's no doubt about that.
We always knew that when the money came on that it would get very serious, but what happened was that one man got more serious about it than anybody else. And he had the fitness, the resolve, the machine preparation too. That's very important because, for instance, carburettor jetting on these things can be vital, and if you get it wrong, as conditions change through the night, well, that can be disastrous.
That's right, Will. They have set up times during the afternoon where it's practice, and you know, like the humidity is a lot different. At night, the bike runs a lot leaner, so you adjust the jetting according to that.
16 completed now by DACK.
Certainly looking good for him.
Oh, that was fairly wide.
Yeah, getting out there with the straw bales.
He was. He goes past James Deakin, and Deakin is another top runner. Queensland is locked up the rear there. Started to wonder whether the engine was getting a bit tired, but it was the ride on the brake, I think.
Yeah, it's generally the case with those short switchback turns. You just lock up the back brake, spin around, and accelerate again. But looking good. You can all see why he's 3 times Mr. Motocross winner.
A title, I might say, won by your good self in '83.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to win it in '83.
And not inappropriate to talk of another man who was just a superb motocross rider in Australia, who was second in the World Championships last year, Jeffrey Lease. But in fact, you beat, didn't you, Ray, in '83?
Yeah, I used to be able to beat Jeffrey back in '83, '82, and then he journeyed over to the States and came back '84 and '85 and just wiped Australia in a clean slate. Hasn't looked back since.
And in fact, it surely is his determination up at that level that carries him through, as he did last year, to second in the World Championships.
Yeah, he's just brilliant. He has this tunnel vision. He wants to be a world champion, and there's no doubt about it, he will make that.
And to look at it another way, we think Craig Dack is working hard here in a 20-lapper in less than 20 minutes, but Jeff Lease, to have success in one round of the World Championships, has to do 4 of these in the afternoon because he does 2 45-minute motos.
Yeah, that's right, Will. 2 45 minutes plus 2 laps, so it's 50 minutes on the track. And riding a 500cc motorcycle is a big task.
David Armstrong being passed there on 17. Now another top rider, factory-backed rider, being lapped by DACK.
Yeah, it's showing that Dacky is certainly on the pace, so these other guys are just, you know, a little bit off the pace, and each lap it keeps building up. Bell still back in
5th place on bike number 1. So to run through the placings again, it is DACK on 2 in 1st place, still from Stephen Andrew in 4. He's 2nd. S is in 3rd place. That's Shane King, the New Zealander. The best of the visiting riders from France, from the United States, and from New Zealand. Then in behind him is 10 Maguire, 1 Glen Bell, and K, which is Darryl King from New Zealand. So there's Atkins on 5. 19 laps have been completed now. Craig Dack is on his final lap for the biggest prize money he's ever been offered. And he's going to take a big share of 40 grand, 15 for Mr. Dack, and that sure represents a big and successful attack up the top of the hill. And now's the nervy time. Now is the time where he is starting to think about the money. Before, he was racing and thinking about the machine and the track. Now is the time when you start to think, I'm nearly home, and dollar signs can come into the eyes.
Well, this is it, Will. Going to this corner here, I'm sure he's going to have a smile on his face, and he deserves it too.
So headed to the finishing line, and 15 grand is his, and it is a hands-off jump as he comes over the finishing line, followed home not so very far behind by bike number 4, and that is Stephen Andrews from Victoria, and he's done well to finish just 8.5 seconds behind Craig Dack. Not much in the 20-lap race. Finally, as they went across the finishing line, a race time for Mr. Dack of 18 minutes 11.27 seconds.